James Green is an AI expert and test pilot, formerly working for the RAF, based in a top-secret development centre in Wales, UK. A series of events happened that sees his military base closed. In a matter of days, James found himself without a job or career. Also, his wife just left him. James contacted an old friend and found himself in Russia, based at a top-secret underground research and development center in Siberia. He fell in love with Olga, who was an experimental Russian fighter plane that had advanced artificial intelligence and a lot of human traits. Dr. T, how are you?
Very good to speak to you again, Graham.
Now, the numbers here for the amount of books you've done and the amount of them that I've done with you as audiobooks, what's the score at the moment?
Well, the score for books is 39, and the number of audiobooks, may I add excellent audiobooks, is 13.
13 audio. It doesn't feel like, it just feels like we've done, I would have put the number probably lower than 10 if I had to just guess.
No, it's 13. I got it off of Audible.
How many did we do in the Cut series, which was the original series we did?
Well, there was 8, and we redid another one, so there were actually 9. And then in my Love Affair with Olga, we have got 3 in the Love Affair with Olga.
All or Nothing is definitely number 3. I know that much.
Yeah, and then we've also got a business book that you did.
Yes. Did we only do one business book?
We did.
Because you've written more business books than that, haven't you?
Oh, God, yeah. Well, the total books now is 39. And most of them are actually business books.
Yeah. Wow. And you are a world-renowned business consultant.
Correct.
Your books are about maximizing profit and productivity and getting the most out of the people in the team that businesses work with. How does that experience help you as a writer of, what would you call, Olga, a science fiction fantasy?
No.
Okay. What would you call it as the author?
Well, they're a lot of the content in them, certainly in the first 2 books, is very accurate. And, you know, if you look at the venues that it's in, it's all very, very plausible. So there's a lot of fact in there. So the sort of science fiction bit really comes in the latter 3 books.
Yes, the first one, it's hard to, you don't see from the first book, you don't see that that's where it's going.
No, not at all. No, not at all. The books are full of surprises.
Yeah, okay. But how does your experience in the business world help you with writing the Olga series of books?
It doesn't. Not at all. Absolutely not at all. There is no correlation between the 2 of them. It's like 2 different people have written them. You know, certainly the books, the novels, I write when I'm asleep anyway.
You've mentioned this before, which I still find hard. You dream the book, and then you wake up and
absolutely right. Yeah.
So are they an escape from real life then for you?
In part. You see, the Olga books, a lot of the Olga books are absolutely true, and you can actually get a map of Afghanistan. They're based in Afghanistan. You can get the map of Afghanistan. You can actually follow where they're going, and all the coordinates are actual coordinates. You know, so you can actually track where they've been.
Yeah.
You can walk along the path with them, so to speak.
I tell you, there is a link though, because a lot of your business work is about leadership, and
that's right.
Olga and Cut before it as well. That series too. There's some pretty sharp leadership lessons in there underneath all the story.
That's very well spotted. I mean, that is really true. And a big platform of mine is people don't reach their best in business because other people hold them back.
Yeah.
And, you know, the books are all good examples of where if you give people the opportunity, and more importantly, if you really support them, then they're capable of much better things than we'd ever imagine.
Yeah, there was a phrase, obviously, that was used a lot when I was in the real world, before I was an audiobook narrator. It wasn't really the real world, it was the world of radio, but there is corporate structures and what have you in commercial and in the BBC radio stations I worked for. They would use the word management a lot and talk about managing people. And as far as I'm concerned, you can't really manage people. You can manage time, you can manage projects, you can manage budgets. But you have to lead people. It's a different thing. It's not the same, because people are the hardest thing of all to get right. Because there's all the emotions and everybody's different. And you're right. Helping people, supporting them, give them the tools that they need, and then sometimes just getting out of their way instead of getting bogged down with process.
Right, Graham. Absolutely right. I mean, the book on leadership that I wrote is very, very much along the same lines. And you spotted it well in the other books. If you can give people the space, and you've got to back them. You've really, really, really got to back them. And that actually happened to me in real life. When I was with Anglian Water, there was this massive reorganisational job to do, which dropped right in my lap. And I wasn't particularly senior at that time, but the director of operations said, we want you to do it. We want the numbers reduced. So it was from 6,600 to 4,500. And he said, and I expect to see an increase in productivity.
But did he say how?
No. The how was down to me. How it was down to me.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing was, he was quite a difficult man. I don't mean that in an unpleasant way. He was a difficult guy to work with. But once you had the what's required, why it's required, and when it's required, how it was done was really down to me. And all he ever did was support me. And his support was tremendous. Because I had to move some stuff around. Anglian Water covers about it's the biggest water authority in the UK, and it covers a huge area. And I had to get all this material and education around to 5 different locations in a very short space of time. So I bought an articulated lorry and geared the lorry out like a big training room. And he just rang me up one day. He said, "Is it true you just bought an articulated lorry?" I said, "Yes, I have." I said, "I need it." He said, "Fine." He said, "That's fine." And that was the end of the conversation.
Brilliant leadership. Because you then know that he's got your back, you're empowered. It's great. For me, it was a smaller one. I was doing the best leader I ever had was a bloke called Tom Hardy, not his real name. He was an ex-pirate radio DJ, and they all had to change their names because they were doing it after 67, so it was illegal on Radio Caroline. And anyway, so his name was Brian Johnson, which I only found out at his wedding, by the way. I thought he was Tom Hardy. But anyway, he was my program director at the first UK radio station I worked at 2CR FM in Bournemouth, and he knew that he has to be the program director, so he's like the leader in charge, and he has to make sure that the sales department who sell the advertising, he's got to keep them on side, but he's also got to get the best out of me as a broadcaster to get the audience to have something to sell, and he managed to walk that line. And there was a particular moment, his office was a big glass window that looked out into the main sales office, and when you sat at his desk, you had your back to this glass window, so the rest of the office could see that you were in there, and Tom was facing me, and we had done something on the air, and we'd upset an advertiser. And the sales department was screaming that, you've got to really tear a strip off him today because he's gone too far. And it was me and my sidekick, Richie. Tom said, "Can you come in here?" And we went in the office, and we knew we were in for a hard time. And he stood there and he went, "That was one of the funniest things I've ever heard. It was a great piece of radio. There's going to be people talking about that at work today who heard that going in. That's exactly what we want from the radio station. But when you walk out of this office, you better look like you've just had the biggest bollocking you've ever had."
Excellent.
Kept us
Absolutely.
on side, kept the sales department. Everybody's happy.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks that
Yeah.
everybody's got the result they want. And that's
Yeah.
what it's not always about following strict rules, isn't it? It's about doing the right thing. Like if you need an articulated lorry, you need an articulated lorry. But if the rules say, oh, you're supposed to go through this and hire up and get
It'd take
approval
forever.
from...
It would take forever, and it would never ever get done.
Yeah.
Never get done at all.
Well, there is a lot of good... there are a lot of good leadership lessons in the series, My Love Affair with Olga. The third one is out now as an audiobook, which is All or Nothing. Is this the final one in the series? Because it felt like you tucked a few things in here.
Well, it is really,
Yeah.
and it's of great value if anybody's gonna get the audiobook, which I hope they do. It's tremendous value because you actually got 3 books in one, and it's 9 hours worth of audio.
Yeah.
And it really is, your production in it was absolutely spectacular. And all the Russian accents that were needed were just spot on. But it's really, really good value. And it's a great story. And one of the things I like, I know I wrote it, but one of the things I really like about it, it's got an amazing ending that you would never, ever guess in a million years.
I'll second that, and I don't want to give that away. There are no spoilers here, but it is an amazing book, and it stands alone. But if you want to get the full experience, there are the 2 previous books. But you can just jump into this one and start with this one if you want. It really is good. Something I've noticed through the 3 books that I wanted to check with you is the character James, who is ex-RAF, but now he works for the Russians, and he's got a new life because, he got to a point in his life in England where it wasn't worth even carrying on. He needed a completely new change, and that's what he's got. But in the books, he doesn't often talk about his old life in England.
No.
What is the reason for that?
Well, the reason for that is, he has made the cut, if you like, and he's sensible enough to think, well, okay, if I'm in Russia, the last thing I want to do is keep talking about England because they just won't like it. And
Yes.
he's just said to himself, that's my old life, that's gone. I've got to do the role that they expect me to do, which is certainly not an easy role.
No. But he is fully committed to it. I mean, he is all in. He would put everything on the line for duty. He's got a very, very strong sense of duty. And he does expect a similar performance from people around him, which at times, I think it was the previous book, he was particularly brutal in one scene. But there are some pretty scary people in this. Where do the characters come from?
Well, believe it or not, they're all people I remotely know. Certainly the women in the book, I could give you the name of each of the women in the book because I know them quite well. And they are, when I wrote about the women, I mean, I could see them as clear as daylight.
Wow, because some of the women characters are the more formidable characters in the book.
For sure. Maybe I just go out with formidable women. I don't know.
Oh, these are women you've been in relationships with.
Well, yeah, more or less.
Wow. Okay. Do you wish that modern Russia, the Russia that we see on TV day and do you wish that Russia was more like the Russia in your book? Because the Russia in your book, or maybe the Russia in your books reflect what Russia is supposed to stand for without the politics getting in there and messing things up too much.
Yeah.
Do you wish that Russia was more like that?
No, I've got no real opinion on it, he says, hopefully. Just in case, am I 5 by the book or am I 6? But the interesting thing is, some years ago, I was doing some work in Rome, and we had an interpreter that was the audience were all Russian, and had an interpreter who was interpreting English to Russian, but her Italian was perfect as well. And I said to her, what is Vladimir Putin really like? She said, well, I've worked with him quite a lot, and he's a really mild-mannered, very quiet man. And I was absolutely shocked.
Yeah.
because that's not the picture that's portrayed of him in the
Oh,
press.
he's portrayed as a Bond villain, isn't he, in
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
press?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I interviewed, I forget the fella's name. Oh, should know. I interviewed the fella who used to host Newsnight, not Jeremy Paxman. The one, his name escapes me. But anyway, and he'd done a book about different leaders and their stories. He'd done one about Margaret Thatcher and whatever. Or maybe it was one book with them all in it. I don't know.
Yeah.
And he was talking about Vladimir Putin, and he said, and I don't know if this is true, but he is a journalist. He says, Vladimir Putin, former KGB, and people think,
Yeah.
he was a Russian James Bond. He said, if you look at the jobs he had, he was actually the Russian Moneypenny.
Yeah,
So that could explain. But we see, because we've been brought up on movies, we see a Bond villain. But he might not be like that at all. He might be, for all we know, he might be more admin than
The other person she worked for was quite interesting. She'd worked for Silvio Berlusconi.
Right. Okay.
And
Very
I
polarizing
said,
character.
But I said, well, what's he like? What's he like to work for? He says, most delightful man, but he's so clever that he does everything in a couple of hours that would take people days to do. And he said he just runs rings around people. And I think that was typified by the press interview when he was caught with this 17-year-old girl. And they said, a very brave journalist said, Signor Berlusconi, is it true you've got Maria, whatever her name was, her phone number in on your personal phone? And he said, no, I haven't. He said, now, is that an honest statement? You have definitely not got her telephone number on your mobile phone. He said, no, I deleted it this morning. and that was just typical of the guy, wasn't it? And the women, the Italian women that I know, liked him. And the guys all thought, yeah, he's a real man, this guy.
So that's how he... Yeah, well, I suppose that bunga bunga parties would do that, wasn't it? That was him, wasn't it?
That was his downfall, I think.
Yeah, I think it was. Back to the book then.
Yeah, sure.
A lot of aircraft, spacecraft, and tech in this book. Do you have a favourite bit of kit that you've written about?
Oh, I liked Olga Mark III, the plane.
Yeah,
and the fembot who actually designed the plane, who is also called Olga M.
Yes,
and I just think she was amazing. Now, when we think about fembots, we all have a bit of a laugh. We imagine these mechanical things wandering around, crashing into everything. If you look currently on the news channel and look at the Chinese factory that's producing fembots, I think anybody would be hard pressed to tell one of the fembots from a real person. They are spectacularly good.
Right. And so I suppose there's a lot of questions about regulation and things like that because of AI could be the downfall of humanity. Do you believe that? Because you've got a lot of AI in this book.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the thing is we're quite lazy. And we're quite happy to hand over all sorts of things to AI. And AI is much, much smarter than we are. I mean, there's no doubt about it at all. And AI has just worked out that they can't trust us anyway, because we tell AI things that we're trying to achieve, and AI spots that it's a huge lie to start with.
Yeah.
And this came to pass about 2 years ago when AI started writing its own software programs. And it started to build its own database based on information it was comfortable with, not what we gave it, but what it was comfortable with. And this it's going to become a big, big issue because, AI is everywhere you can think of.
Yeah.
The latest thing is that you can build a house using AI printing. And it will build the house in under 2 weeks and 47% cheaper than you could build it. And it's a top quality build.
Wow. So how far away do you think we are from having the actual technology that's in the Olga book? I mean, like a robot that can just go in a pilot's seat.
Yeah, we've got most of it now. And the Americans have got autonomous planes. They've had those for years.
Yeah.
then they're not planes that where there's a 17-year-old with a joystick controlling the plane. Once the plane takes off, it's gone.
Yeah.
It's on its own,
And it's
and it
making
thinks for
decisions.
itself.
Yeah.
The only thing it can't do, it can't actually park itself. So when it lands, there has to be an umbilical cord, and a man with a remote has to walk in front of it, and the plane follows the man. I mean, but that's just I just find that totally amusing.
Was it fun doing the research for the book then to find out what kind of technology you could put in the book?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I mentioned it to you before. In the first few Olga books, I suddenly got the wind up. I suddenly thought, well, hang on a minute. This is all a bit too true. And the places were all real. So I sent a copy of the first two books to the FSB, which used to be the KGB, both in the UK and in Russia. Because it was all about top secret locations and one thing and another, and definite factories and definite planes. And I suddenly thought to myself, I really do sound like a spy. So I thought I need just to sort this out. So I actually sent the books to the UK Russian embassy and to the KGB, now the FSB in Russia.
And
never heard a word. No,
right.
No, not word. See, if I ever see a drone fly overhead, I'll get a bit nervous. But
well, that's the thing, though. If they really have got tabs on you, you wouldn't know, would you?
No, of course you wouldn't. No, of course you wouldn't. And the Russian agents don't walk around looking like James Bond. You'd never spot them. The ones that are successful are almost anonymous to look at.
Yeah. Wow. The one of the things about the book, though, is how it is so specific. You mention aircraft manufacturers and even, you go into a factory at one stage in one of the books and, there's a character comes out of that and everything. And when the commander and Olga take a holiday in Moscow, you name a lot of Moscow restaurants and streets. Are they all genuine?
Of course they are. You could ring up right now and you could book a table. No, seriously, Graham. You could book a table.
Wow, so they are all real places. So
everything's real. All the streets are real, the park's real.
And have you ever been to Moscow?
No.
See, that's how good you are. I had to ask. I mean, but the detail in there, it isn't vague. It is very, very detailed in the streets and the names of manufacturers and everything, the place names and everything.
Yeah. And you can walk the streets, you can go into the restaurants, you can meet the staff, you can do the whole lot. It's all possible.
So with the Olga series then kind of being wrapped up with All or Nothing, where do you take things now? What would be on your radar now to write about? Because I thought with the Cut series you'd covered everything off, and then when you told me you had the Olga series, I thought, oh yeah, that sounds really interesting, because I think you'd mentioned it a couple of times before I actually did the audiobook. And then I'm like, oh wow, this has got elements of Cut with the leadership, and because the character of James is similar to the main character in Cut. He's a military born and bred, and he's got the discipline and everything about it. But a whole new dimension. What's left for you to write?
Well, I have the idea of a book in my mind, but I'm just letting it ferment for a bit before I do anything with it.
Okay, you've also got a business book that we're going to be talking about soon as well. What's that?
Well, the business book is a real biggie, because the one thing that it does that no other business books that I've read have ever done is it tells you how to do things and what the return on investment's likely to be. So if you buy the book, I don't know what the price is going to be yet because it's still being finalized. But if you buy the book, it will be the best investment you've ever made, because the return on investment is absolutely astronomical. Absolutely astronomical.
You can't give us any more details than that?
Well, it's absolutely astronomical.
There you go. Okay.
Where do you go from there?
I was wondering if specifically what kind of what parts of business that it looks like? Because
Well,
you did one on AI, which was a
yeah,
great one.
yeah. It would
Yeah.
affect any business, public or private sector, and it will show them how to do things to really add value. And the key here is without spending any extra money.
Wow, that's the silver
Well, that's
bullet,
the
isn't
key.
it?
That's the key to it all. You can do these things. I mean, I've worked in the Middle East since about 1996, I think, and the Arabs are superb at spending vast sums of money, and actually, there's nothing to show for it. They get a big report from McKinsey or Watson Wyatt or Ernst Young, massive, great report, and nobody really knows when they go how to do it.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
and they're stuck with this massive report and how to do it. Then HR, God bless them, are hung up on everything being, it's best practice. We've heard about the the experiments that they did in China in the frozen pea factory, and we can do that here. Well, you can't, and what works in China certainly isn't going to work in the, in a place in Bahrain or Qatar. It won't happen.
Yeah. Yeah. So you are a globe-trotting writer. Have you ever thought about doing any travel writing?
No.
Not really. About your experiences on the road as a
No,
business leader? No.
no, because if anybody read it, they would think it was fantasy anyway. So.
Okay. Remind us where you're based, Dr. T. It's Essex, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm based in Essex in a place called Heybridge, which is right near the Blackwater estuary. So you're into sailing, which I'm not, but there's all sailing boats, and it's very, very boaty, but very lovely. And loads of wildlife.
And did you grow up there?
No, I grew up in London, and then a place called Hastings, which is on the south coast.
Yeah. 1066 and all that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
keep your eye on that one, Harold.
What did you what were you reading as a kid then? What was inspiring you then?
Well, nothing. I think my childhood was very sad because my father was ex-army, and he was very, very much, if you want something, son, you've got to work for it. And I just seemed to have all these different jobs. I was always working. And I remember there was a girl I really, really, really wanted to go out with. I mean, my heart throbbed. And she invited me to a birthday party. And I never went. I was so tired. I went to bed when I got home, and I just fell asleep. Woke up the next day and thought, well, that's it. And it was. She never spoke to me again.
So life could have worked out very differently. Very differently.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So when did you start writing?
I didn't start writing books till the late 90s. And then I had a bit of a break when I was in America, so I was just so busy. But when I came back to England, I started writing quite prolifically. I've got a friend of mine who's a professor in America, and he said, I've no idea how you write so much. And I had a letter years ago from Grammarly saying that I'd written something like 2.5 million words.
Wow. So the writing will continue. I don't know how you manage to find time to do everything, what with the globe trotting and saving businesses and all the other things you do. Where can we find out more about Dr. Tony Miller?
I'll be on the website, www.tony-miller.com. And the audio books, I think, people want to know where to get hold of them. You can get hold of it on Amazon Kindle here and in the US. I see the US as my market, really.
Yeah.
So here or America. Other companies that are making this audio available are Apple, Barnes & Noble, and about 8 other companies. So there's quite a raft of places you can pick it up from. But if you go to Amazon Kindle, you've got the book and you've got the audio there. But I would advise anybody that the audio book is the way to go.
That is so nice of you to say, Dr. T, because I know you put in all the work, you come up with the thing from scratch, you create it from absolutely nothing while you're asleep, you come up with all this stuff. I come along and just read it and take all the glory.
Well, I was going to say that, Graham, but I was too polite.
No, it was a terrific book to read. It was actually particularly the second half of it. I found it was some of it was quite a stretch because we had aliens and there were more technical tricks I wanted to put onto them to make them sound more foreign.
Perfect. You did a really great job.
Thank you so much. It's a wonderful book. It's my favorite one of the series because it just takes it elsewhere, and the ending, well, I don't want to say too much, but you think one thing has happened and a different thing has happened. That's all I'll say. That is all I'll say. The book is called My Love Affair with Olga. It's book 3 in the series. It stands alone on its own, but you could get the other 2 first if you want to, if you really want to enjoy it. In fact, you could listen to this one first and then listen to the other 2 as prequels. That would still work.
That would still work. It certainly would, Graham.
This one is called My Love Affair with Olga, All or Nothing, and it's by Dr. Tony Miller.
Thank you very much, Graham.